Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pockets Full of Soup, the storytelling show. I'm your host, Jared Petty. I'm joined today by the prestigious, the handsome, the German.
Per. Hey.
Hey, what's up,
Wow,
Per?
that's quite the intro. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Per Schneider, people know you from many places. You are, in our industry, something of a legend, one might say.
That just means old.
Old,
Legend
is
just
that it?
means it's from a very long time ago, yeah.
Where might people know you from, Per?
From IGN.
Yeah.
So I've been with IGN since 97. So I was there. I'm one of the co-founders of the company. The company was founded in 1999, but I was there before. Not right at the very beginning when Imagine Media came up with the concept of IGN and the kind of the network of affiliate sites, all that. I joined right during the heydays of N64.com, IGN64 as an editor.
Okay.
So came, fresh out of, fresh from grad school, joined this company, and then just kind of like Darth Sidious just took over, took on more and more things until, for a while I ran the entire company, and now I'm chief creative officer.
So in the IGN Mount Rushmore, the Metal Gear Solid 4 Mount Rushmore of IGN, your face is one of the ones on there?
Maybe. I hope so. There's so many people who made that company a success.
Who are some other people that helped make it?
So in the very beginning, the guy obviously running the company was chairman of TED, Chris Anderson.
Yeah.
There was Jonathan Simpson-Bint, who is over at Twitch now. I think he's a COO over there. He, I think he came up with the idea for the brand and all that, and kind of launched it. There are a whole bunch of wonderful people. There was obviously Matt Casamassino was there before me, writing about N64. Doug Perry, writing about the N64. I think before everybody. It's the age of, the classic PC gamer, Next Generation magazine, folks you'll see at Nintendo now, like Chris Slate, where they're running the PlayStation mag. So, lots of people made it a success in the beginning.
And now you've been there this 20 years.
21, yeah,
21.
almost. Yeah,
oh my
yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
21 years.
Yeah, it's been since
Does it feel
90,
that long?
No, 97, yeah, not quite 21, yeah.
So writing about video games on the internet.
Yeah.
How's that
crazy,
going?
Good. It's good. I mean, it's never boring. I mean, the world has changed, right?
Yeah.
We started with a website that we updated literally once a night. At midnight, the website would publish all the pieces you'd written would just go live to the audience. If there was a typo, you couldn't fix it. You'd have to wait for the next publish run. So all your sins were there for everybody to mock, but there were no comments. So you mocked them in your head, and you couldn't tell us.
Did you have to wait a day to mock them? Oh, wait, there was nowhere to mock them.
They were just
Could they email you and mock them?
We did a mailbag, so we always got mails, and we got thousands of mails. It was awesome. And then, the internet changed.
Yeah.
And this is the age before Google. This is the age before Amazon, the age before GameStop.com or any of these kind of like online retail sites, Reddit, YouTube, any of that.
Yeah.
And then the world changed so many times, and we, I'd like to think that we were always there, lockstep, trying to figure out how to take a games media brand and modernize it, right? So we started on YouTube very, very early on. So when people talk about influencers on YouTube, our channel's got 8.5 million subs, right?
Okay.
We're on Snapchat as the only games Discover partner. We've got an app on the PlayStation, so you can watch it without going online. So we did all that, and so that's been working.
Do you ever miss the Wild West of the internet? Not just in terms of your company, but just in general, for that matter. What do you miss about Wild West internet?
Well, first of all, remember when we wrote about video games, game publishers, PR people did not care about websites. So, right next to us, the crew of Next Generation magazine would get a game early to play, no matter what platform they'd play it, because they obviously they had lead time of 2 months. So they were playing what was almost finished.
Yeah.
Very, very different age now, where like you get a game now, it's not finished when it's out, right?
Yeah.
Like back then, almost finished games, and you had to kind of fill in the gaps and say, well, the frame rate might get fixed, so I'm gonna give it the benefit.
Give
of
it a
the
little
doubt.
leeway
Like
there.
that's different now. But we had to call people and say, no, this is why we matter. This is why you should deal with us. Websites aren't just, they're not just fans on the internet. It's a professional. It's a professional organization. You can trust us to give us heads up.
How long do you think it took to create that perception?
It took a long time.
Yeah.
It took a very long time to convince, to get PR people to understand that the magazine cover that they saw at their local, drugstore or a GameStop, that in the end, that wasn't as powerful as getting getting in front of this audience of millions. You know, even at its biggest, like magazines like Game Informer, we're talking about like a rate base of a million eyeballs, and you know that's like half a day for our Snapchat channel, you know, but it was very difficult to convince PR people of that because the physical, you know, tangible magazine cover wasn't there.
Yeah.
And they like that. They want to show that to their boss and say, see, I got the cover in EGM.
Well, covers are fun. Do you ever miss magazines?
Yeah, I love magazines.
Yeah.
I would absolutely subscribe to lots of magazines if there wasn't the amount of garbage, you know, the paper garbage, and then the ease of access. By the time you get magazines, you've already read a lot of wonderful big feature stories online, and so
yeah, that's what I like about magazines is they're sort of like snapshots in time. They're frozen in this one particular moment. You have longer to write them than a news story, but not as much time as a book, and so they're locked in this really weird kind of honestly disappearing art form kind of writing that forces you to be trapped a few weeks ago in a very short window.
Yeah, it's a month-long time capsule too, right? Like if you can go to IGN, you can look up an old review, or you can dig around for some old mailbag I did in 1997. But you don't get the sense of what was going on that month, right? But you take an issue of EGM and you go, oh my God, yeah, these games came out and they were super excited about Bubsy 3D EGM at one point. Man, I lived in Japan and I read EGM in Japan and they were super hyped about Bubsy 3D.
Really?
And I actually imported that game, the Super NES version for my Super Famicom, and I was so mad.
It's just,
Yeah.
what
And then
was the hype about?
They were just really excited about like someone doing this 3D platformer that had voice acting and all of that.
Okay.
I don't know. There was like a very glowing preview. I don't
Just the
remember all of
novelty
it.
of it all? That's
yeah, and then
fascinating.
when it came out, they didn't like it. Obviously, they played it and they said, "Oops."
That happens sometimes.
But yeah, so you know that was the magazine age where you did not have the second opinion. Like there was no one to go to say, "Is this game actually good?" Because you had this lead time of 2 months, and you know.
Besides what you do now, working, I mean, you now manage a large, influential website.
Yeah.
What else have you done in your life? What other vocations have you flirted with?
So I actually, so right out of high school. So German high school is called Gymnasium, which is the same word as gymnasium.
Okay.
It used to be, you know, after the 13th year, you graduate with your diploma. It's called the Abitur. So after I did that, I messed up my leg.
Oh, how did you do that?
I got out of my mom's car, and suddenly my leg got stuck at a 90-degree angle, basically, and it couldn't move anymore. So a piece of my knee broke off and blocked the knee, so it was stuck like that. Being a stupid teenager, I'm like, I'll be fine. I'm just gonna walk around a little bit. You couldn't walk. I couldn't walk with it. So I
didn't know this.
You know, so I stuck around in Germany for a while. My parents moved to Japan.
Okay.
I hung out in Germany, finished my school and all that with this stuck knee, had it operated, was in a hospital for like 2 months, and then followed. And I moved to Japan.
And why Japan?
So my dad had his company started a joint venture. So he went over there to lead a joint venture with Sumitomo, the Japanese bank. He worked for a company that made for Höchst, which was gases for welding and oxygen, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So basically selling all the stuff that's in the air anyway. But he moved to Japan, and so he had a nice apartment there, and it was an awesome opportunity then to say, could I go to college there?
Huh.
You know, and
was it the cultural novelty? Was it the fact that games at that point came from Japan and you love games? What was it?
So Jared, it was honestly, as a kid, having this tremendous anxiety about what would lie ahead. Just like I knew I loved to write. I knew I loved computers. You know, there were all these things that I was interested in. I was good with languages, for example, in school. You know, German is my native language, but then I learned French and then English, and learned some Japanese later in Japan, of course. And so I just didn't know what to do with that. And I had this kind of existential dread. Saying like, oh God, school is ending, and you have this thing that you know what to do in school. Yeah. And I like to goof off a lot. I didn't, in the end, I didn't get the greatest grades because I love to party so much.
Okay.
And then you get to this point, you're like, wow, what do you do now? I guess I could go to university in Germany, but to do what? And then I thought, wouldn't it be great to work at a newspaper or a magazine or make documentary movies? And then I was like, oh, but how do you get into that?
Yeah.
So I just didn't know. And then this opportunity came up, and honestly, it was a little bit procrastinating on making a decision.
How old were you at this point?
So we're talking about 18, 19,
Okay.
right?
That's a good time to procrastinate.
So there was this opportunity to go to college in Japan because there was a university, it's called Jochi, in English, Sofia.
Yeah.
And Sofia had an English language campus. So you could study in English. It was a university, that campus was founded by Jesuits.
Okay. Wow.
And so all, English language programming, and they had a course called, four-year program called Comparative Culture. Sounds completely made up, right?
No, not at all.
But it was all about learning about Japanese culture. You would take Japanese language classes, all that. And I'm like, well, this could fit in well with what I want to do, right? And I had grown up in a small town of 10,000 people in Germany. In the Rhineland of Germany, very close to the Dutch border. So our German accent is kind of halfway German, halfway Dutch.
Ooh,
we call it Plattdeutsch. Yeah.
What do you call it?
Flat German.
Flat German.
Plattdeutsch, yeah.
Okay.
So you replace like the S in das, with T. So it's dat.
So what does your version of like a like Central German accent sound like? If you're trying to sound like somebody.
Well, I
different.
speak Hochdeutsch, which is Central German.
Oh, you
it's
do?
more,
Okay.
yeah. Then like Berlin has a different accent where instead of ich, they say ich.
Okay.
Southern Germany is I, like it's the Bavarians, like what Americans
No,
think
no,
all
I don't.
Germans
No,
are.
the answer is no. I don't know.
Yeah.
My ignorance of Germany is
Northern is
extraordinary.
kind of like the stiff upper lip. Almost like we're getting close to England and the Nordic countries, and so Germany is very very diverse with accents and also I think the way the people are. Anyway, like long story short, I was like I'm going to go to Japan. I'd broken up, my girlfriend had broken up with me too. So there was all this stuff happening at the same time. Like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so
4 years of college in Japan sounds great.
Sounds like like I can procrastinate on life and do something. And I don't know what it's good for, but I will learn another language and I'll get distance and I'll get a new outlook on culture and life.
Yeah.
I had, I'd done a student exchange for a couple of weeks, gone to America, to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Oh.
So when you're a German kid and they say, hey, student exchange program, everybody goes California or New York, and then you always get stuck, no offense guys in the middle, but you always get stuck with, a country in the center of the United States, like a smaller town usually.
Lincoln, Nebraska.
But
I
it
can't
was
speak to
awesome.
Lincoln. Okay.
It was great. It was so it was a little bit of we're talking about 80s, right? So it was almost like it was stuck in the 70s.
Really?
Our clothes in Germany were different from the clothes there. And like it was like watching a Hughes movie. Like it was like watching Pretty in Pink or something. Like that's how it looked there. And we had already kind of moved towards what the 90s would look like.
Okay.
So it was very interesting. So I'd lived abroad. I've just short time there.
Yeah.
I've stayed with friends in Paris before. So I've gotten around a little bit.
So you were not intimidated by international travel at all, international living.
Can I swear on this or no?
Absolutely.
I was scared shitless, of course, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you were frightened about it.
All my friends, like that comfort of going to a bar and having beers with your friends, which is a big thing in Germany, right?
Yeah.
The comfort of, like your best friend lives across from you in the street and there's trees everywhere and you know exactly what all the foods are. All that comfort was suddenly put at risk. Like we're not talking about moving to Belgium or the Netherlands or France or Poland or anything like any of the surrounding nations. We're talking moving to Japan.
Yeah. About as far away as you
Sushi
can
restaurants did not exist in Germany at the time.
Really?
Only in Düsseldorf, like the fancy pants towns.
No kidding.
So my dad, before I moved there, my dad took me to my first sushi restaurant in Düsseldorf. And I was like, yeah, it'll take some getting used to this.
Okay.
It was very different from our cooking and our cuisine.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Japan, and it was absolutely crazy. It was absolutely crazy. First of all, I was there as a blonde, then skinny kid, blonde, very blonde hair, and with a tan. Moved to Japan and walked around. I wouldn't see another foreigner all day. And so suddenly I was the center of attention. I went from being not like I'm not tall, right? I went from being a normal guy in Germany with lots of tall blonde people to being like literally the only blonde person in a sea of 10,000 people on a subway or something.
And you look different than everyone around you.
And so suddenly you get this culture shock where everybody's looking at you at all times.
Do you enjoy the attention?
All the girls were always giggling and whispering and walking by going kakoi, like you suddenly got this. You were being made to feel like Justin Bieber or something. Like you felt like a superstar.
For those who don't know, what's kakoi?
Kakoi means cool, handsome, but not. It wouldn't happen once a month, and it wasn't the kind of thing you'd get back at home where you make a connection with someone. It was every day, every hour.
Did you enjoy it?
I was just like, I was amazed. I felt so special. Of course I wasn't special. I was just like any other kid back in Germany, but like put into this thing. I mean, imagine if 200 years ago you had taken a trip to Africa, right? Yeah. Everybody would have looked at you and said, "Oh, he was this delightful missionary coming." No, but everybody would have looked at you like you were from another planet, right?
Well, and I think about in my high school the Romanian exchange student in the small southern town that I lived in, and how everybody just kind of looked in awe and curiosity constantly, and it must have been very stressful.
There was not a single Black or Asian person in my hometown in the 70s.
Wow. That's incredible.
Zero. They were later. There were in the later years there were more refugees from Southeast Asia. So the profile changed, and obviously is very cosmopolitan now. But it was white people and then Turkish immigrants, of course, right? That was the profile of our small town. Wow. And so if Asian people had come to that small town, people would have looked too. And by the way, my wife looks very Asian. She's a quarter Japanese. When we went to my hometown, she still got attention as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Just for looking slightly different.
That's everybody always says, "Oh, look at that pretty Chinese lady." I'm like, "No, she's not." Yeah.
She's not Chinese?
But no, and they say it in German because they think she wouldn't understand. And of course, she speaks fluent German
great
too.
German, that's a lot of fun.
But the same thing happened in Japan to me. So I was learning Japanese, and I'd understand what people said about me, and everybody assumed I wouldn't understand a word.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I felt like a superstar, and it got to my head too.
Yeah.
I was just like cocky, teenage boy, very cocky. When I see videos from the time, like video camera stuff, I looked like I was on cloud nine, thinking I was a superstar.
You did mention video camera stuff. I believe that you had a brief flirtation with male modeling somewhere around this time.
How do you know this?
How did I know that? I'd love to hear about that if you're willing to talk about it.
So again, like if you look different and you're special, you get some gigs. So I took some gigs as a voice. Yeah. So I was the English language voice of an escalator at a big department store chain.
Which one?
I'm trying to think. I think it was Matsuya. And so you'd go to like in Asakusa, and it was like, "Please hold on to the handrail." And the funny thing is, but it was in English. It wasn't even in German. And I have a German accent still to this date, right? Wait till you make me say words like February. And so I did all these voice acting things. Then my wife and I were the voice of basically a Hard Rock Cafe ripoff. And it was like, we're announcing stuff like a mock radio stations, like,
So there's this German guy announcing Hard Rock. That's great.
But like copying the American radio announcer stuff.
So are you doing are you doing
now we're going to go for the, now you're going to get the Allman Brothers with, like just doing this kind of radio voice.
So you're doing like the fake Damon Hatfield.
Oh, totally.
I mean, Damon Hatfield's not fake, but you
kind of sound like Damon Hatfield. Yeah. And my wife, she was born in Japan, but she's completely bilingual. She would do her California thing. And then we'd break into kind of almost deliberately accented Japanese and saying, Kyo no tokusei shukuji, and you'd be doing this like fake Inamura Jane radio voice stuff.
That's amazing.
Announcing today's specials like the BLT and all that. BLT.
How did you fall into that?
It's just like once you took one gig, you got just more gigs. So I sang children's songs for Sony Music. So I did some stuff for Sony, while being in college.
Find this.
the escalator. Like, I don't think you can find any of this stuff. And then, of course, teaching
You have
English.
a mission, all of you listening and watching, find this and send it to me.
And then, of course, teaching English. Right? The moment you do this stuff, it's like, oh, can you teach our school class English? And I'm like, sure, I can. I'm German. But they didn't care.
Yeah.
It was just, a white guy can teach English.
That was the assumption you found?
Yeah. And then I got all these gigs, and that helped me obviously pay for, living in a very expensive town. At first, I was able to live with my parents. In Ichigaya, like right in the center of Tokyo. Mm-hmm. My dad, I mean, in hindsight, his company took care of him. Like, I don't want to know what the rent was. Must have been like 10 grand for his apartment, which is his apartment at the time probably would fit into my kitchen and my living room. That was the entire house.
But that part of Tokyo is just impossible.
Yeah, it was just incredibly expensive. So like this corporate expat life. And then he actually, my parents actually moved back to Germany and then moved to India later.
Oh,
and
wow.
I stayed behind in Japan. So got an apartment in Nakano.
Okay.
If you've ever been, that's where all the geek stores are.
Yeah, you got to go to Mandarake and Nakano.
Yeah.
That's where you get your 2/3 prices Famicom games.
That's right. And I had already met this wonderful woman and this girlfriend, and we moved in together. And of course, we're married now for this week 20 years.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you. But
Happy
we met before that, and obviously in college, and we moved in together and stayed there, and then did all these little jobs on the side to pay for it.
I love that. I still haven't heard a thing about your photographic modeling, though.
So then we did modeling stuff. The reason for modeling was not to make money. It was to get a portfolio done with pictures that looked like a professional modeling portfolio, which would let you get into clubs for free. So when we're talking about like Juliana's Tokyo, like what was it, like Java Jive? There were all these expensive clubs in Roppongi and Shibuya and Shinjuku, and they were like 5,000 yen to get in. So like $50 at the time. I mean, that's a lot of money for an entrance fee for a student.
It's a lot of money now.
So you would just take a couple of modeling pictures, and then you would be able to get into these places for free.
Well, the main question is a simple one. It's the same one we ask every episode until I decide to change it, and that's talk about somebody you're thankful for. Apparently.
Okay. So I mean, the obvious answer. I have a wonderful family now, and my wife is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And is. Not a day goes by after 20 years of marriage that I don't just look at her and go, how did this happen? Why is she with me?
Yeah.
But no, the person I want to talk about is actually my dad.
Your dad.
Which is weird because when I was a kid, I don't know how many times I said I hate you to him.
To your father, really?
Yeah, and I had a wonderful relationship with my mother. My mother was very nurturing. She would, get out the pencils and paintbrushes, and we'd paint together. And like she'd get the whole like neighborhood involved. And she was a housewife. She stayed at home. My dad was working, and so she just gave us a lot of attention. And she pushed us to learn instruments and like just be creative and all that. And I have a lot to be thankful there because she really gave me this foundation for the things that I ultimately would do. While my dad was very distant, and I actually dreaded him coming home every day. Like he'd come home and he would be angry from something at work. You could tell he was in a job that he was good at.
Okay.
And I don't know if he was passionate about it, but it pissed him off.
Really?
Like every day
Every day came home angry?
And so he'd come home and he just we couldn't forge a connection like between him and me and my brothers. I have 2 older brothers. Like he wasn't a nurturing dad.
Okay.
He was a provider. Mm-hmm. He really cared about making sure that he earned money and everybody had a good life, but he was not someone you wouldn't hug. He wasn't someone.
Did you ever hug him? I mean, do you remember?
Later. So I mean, we'll get to that, but
not as a child.
We would, like my friend's dad would be out in the field behind our house was this big open field. Again, small rural town.
Yeah.
They'd be playing soccer. And I'd go out there and I'd play soccer with my friend and his dad, and then other people from the neighborhood would come, and I'd go home and I'd go like, Papa, you want to come and play soccer? And I knew the answer. Like he just wouldn't. He couldn't connect with the other fathers. He couldn't connect with the other kids. They would annoy him, and like he just wasn't the guy. Like we would never go and play soccer.
So you say he wouldn't connect with the kids, but also not the other fathers. Was he kind of antisocial? Was that
he was someone who liked to tell stories, and he had a couple people liked to hang out with, but he wasn't the kind of guy to go out and have fun and let go.
Oh, really?
I think he would always think about going back home. He really loved my mom, and he wanted to kind of keep her, and like he was very protective of her. If any other man just looked at her, he'd be like, "All right, time to go."
Really?
Like he was like that kind of person. So he was very, very conservative, very strict. He would yell very easily, and I mean that was my view as a kid, right? Like who knows? It's Rashomon, right? Like maybe my mom has a different view, my dad has a different view.
I love that reference. That's great.
But I'm a big Kurosawa fan. I named one of my kids Akira, so obviously not after the anime.
No.
And so I had this terrible, honestly, like this very adversarial relationship where I just didn't want to see him. Like if I heard his car coming, heard him coming home, I heard the car, I'd be like shutting the door. You know.
Is this formative? I mean, we're talking like 7, 8, 9 at this point, or is this as a teenager? Or?
We're talking like even at a young age, he wasn't able to connect. I had an Atari home computer.
Yeah.
He wouldn't ever play video games with me. He would once in a while, he'd like boot up Donkey Kong. When he was, like on the weekend, he'd play it, but he would never collaborate. We would never do 1 and 2 player consecutive.
No taking turns, no sitting next to you and watching.
Or never ask. Like he would just either do it on his own or he wouldn't do it at all.
Did that make you feel like he didn't like you?
Like as a teenager, you have, like as a kid, you have all these emotions, and like I don't think you think it through that far. You just know that I don't have any connection with this guy. Like he's only complaining, and like the times, I remember the few times where we did something fun, where he'd like, we'd go to the tank museum. This sounds funny, right? This sounds like the German.
No, but like, to the tank museum?
There was a tank museum in Holland.
I want to go to the tank museum.
As a kid, it was this giant field of basically like broken and restored tanks from World War II and like some old World War I stuff. It was amazing. Oh my gosh. And as a kid, I remember those moments because I remember the road trip with my dad and like how he was kind of goofy and having fun. And like those moments, though, I think were very far in between.
So he was relaxed. What do you think it was about that trip?
Very rarely. I think he focused so much on his work life and had this kind of set goal of making sure that he would be able to provide for the future, make sure his sons would become something. And I think all that kind of that playfulness and goofiness he couldn't relate to. Like he couldn't relate to a kid talking bullshit. And I see with my kids, like once in a while I'm like, oh. Like they will just quote YouTubers, and I'm like, I can't relate to that. but I'm a dad who has 4 Xboxes and 4 PS4s in the house and only 3 Switches. Like I'm a dad who plays video games, and we do all these things, and we go on, we take hikes and vacations together, and so I think I deliberately swing other way.
You've changed some of the way that you were based on.
No, and he couldn't handle the goofiness and the kind of like the loudness of a kid.
And kids are loud, man.
And he was born in 1939, and so he grew up at the tail end of World War II.
Yeah.
He would tell stories that were fascinating of their house not having a roof. And, his uncle, they would go into the forest to look for mushrooms so that they would have something to eat, right? Like all these kind of like the survival stories. And I think he just grew up in such an adverse climate. Like it was survival and everything was serious.
Yeah, I think we could go back to the house without a roof from it. Had a bomb blown it off?
Yes.
Was that
Yeah. So there were lots of, around Cologne where he lived, there were lots of factories.
Okay.
And so the city was leveled. If you've been to Gamescom, you can see photos of Cologne, and it was the giant cathedral at the center, the biggest Gothic monument, was the only thing standing. The entire city was leveled
around.
I mean, just imagine your city of 1 million inhabitants, every building flat. And so that was
they just go underground when the air raid sirens go off and come back up and there's no roof.
That's what he was born into. He remembers the air raid sirens and having to hide. And so I think he has this background where you had to be serious and you had to be grown up very fast. And so I don't think he knew how to play.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And
what was it about your mother? What was it about your mother that made her the person he could connect to? What do you think that came from? It sounds like he was able to open up to her in a way that he wasn't with anybody else.
Well, first of all, I mean, my parents, when you see old photos of them, my dad looked like James Dean. My mom looked like Audrey Hepburn. They were very beautiful people.
Yeah.
So you have all these black and white photos. And,
well, you're pretty hot. I mean, I definitely see where that comes from.
You. No, they're just, and I think he was infatuated with her. They actually met, I think, singing an opera together. But my daughter can sing very well and has, I think, inherited my mom's genes there. But my dad, they play acted together in Antigone, I think, the play, and he met her there.
Oh, and
she's
really?
much shorter than him, and I think he felt protective, but she was also smoking. You know?
So your dad met your beautiful mother at a Greek opera.
No, Greek play.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. That's extraordinary.
And so I think he was just, I mean, he's very serious about providing and protecting and all that. And I think that's the role he took. And, you know, I mean, they're still married after all these years and living together. And so it worked. That connection
something
worked.
clicked. So it started there, and then you used the word infatuation.
Yeah.
You know where the emotional connection came from?
It's hard to tell.
Have they ever talked about it? I wonder.
Yeah, they share, but you know, I think it was a different time, so I think it may be a little bit difficult for me to understand what exactly created that connection.
But you and your father, no emotional connection of tenderness or interaction growing up. Were you angry with him immediately? Do you remember?
Always.
Okay, you were always angry.
Always, yeah. Okay. And it was the quintessential drama of slamming your door and saying you don't understand me, and you know, worse things, and just couldn't connect. And then maybe that wasn't every day, but those are the memories you retain, you know, from your childhood. You remember the extremes. And so I remember the extremes where it was a wonderful day, where like that one day he was being goofy.
Tank Museum.
And then I remember all the other times that he was just very strict or very aloof or didn't care, or, you know, like he came home and he would just tell me to pick up my shoes and put them away. And that was the only interaction we'd have for the day. There were the few moments where, you know, like he'd let me stay up and watch a Western movie, you know, like watch like Rio Bravo late at night. And I remember those moments. And what he did do, though, and that goes now to the thankful part, he didn't let me be the aimless teenager. And he said he drove me to kind of pick a career choice. I think he sensed that I was rudderless. Do
you agree you were rudderless?
Absolutely. I mean, I was more, even like the final years in our high school, I was more focused on partying. Did not take studying seriously. And I honestly, I'm not a dumb guy getting C's in classes, right? And worse, like math, I'm absolutely horrible. Got an F. Languages always A's and all that.
So really good at languages, not much aptitude.
Terrible at math, but honestly, not good at math because I just didn't care.
Okay.
And like academically, when I look back now, I'm like, yeah, I can ace this.
Oh yeah, I if I could go back in time and just grab all my. I had some good math teachers. I can't blame them. But if I could grab a few of them by the collar and just be like, just tell me this connects to physics or programming in some way at one point, and I'll be good at math. Because I had no clue until it was.
So I got really lazy, and I think that must have really frustrated my dad, right?
Yeah.
And what he did in the final years that we lived in Germany still, he said, we're going to write internship applications for you. And he'd say, well, at first he said, you have to write internship applications. And this is the age before the internet. You couldn't look up job posting or anything, right? And so, and I didn't even know where to start.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, FAZ, big German newspaper. Der Spiegel, big news magazine, weekly.
Now,
in Hamburg.
Did the news interest come from you or him at this point?
I did not care about news. I did not care about, you know, I cared about writing and creative, like, you know, writing short stories and all that. And I was good at it, I've been told. So I like to write, but I was not into like covering hard news.
So do you think he was like, Pear likes writing, so this is the closest thing I can point him to?
And
do you think that's where he picked it up?
And I think he had aspirations to be a journalist.
Really?
I think when that was where he wanted to go, and he always wanted to write. And so I think he was projecting at that point.
Yeah.
And I think he was getting frustrated that I was aimless. And then he saw this, I'm going to move to Japan. the other two sons are already studying law and architecture, you know, like big, I mean, just high performance academics, right? And my youngest son doesn't know what to do. And so he basically, like, he powered through, and he said, write these applications, and I wouldn't. And then he's like, okay, let's sit down now. We're going to write these on a typewriter. Let's write these applications.
So wait, this is your father who won't normally do things with you.
Yeah.
Now he's sitting down at a typewriter with you. How did you react to that?
Well, it was an inconvenience, man. It was no, I mean, it was a bother. I didn't want to think about it. I was smoking I was smoking Lucky Strikes without filters at the time. I was not thinking about myself or my future. And I just wanted to let it run and just kind of go and see what happens. And at the same time, I had this awful dread of what could happen if I didn't figure out what to do.
Was there any cats in the cradleness to it? I mean, were you just like, this is too late, man? Why are you reaching out now?
No, okay. It was more like, yeah, whatever, man. You know, it's like typical, like, it's like Bart Simpson, you know, whatever, fine. And then
I love the idea of you as Bart Simpson.
Yeah, and we'd write it. I was Bart. I had a skateboard too. And so I wrote these applications, and then I'd send them everywhere. And back in those days, you would actually get letters back.
Yeah.
So physical letters sent to all these great German TV stations and newspapers, and all of them would come back saying, unfortunately, we don't have an opening for an internship right now. And a lot of internships at the time were free. That's not legal the same way. Maybe it wasn't even legal then, but it's not legal today, right? Like free internships are not what you think they are. They have to be programs done with schools. An intern can't contribute to a product. So if you go and work as an intern for a newspaper, you could carry coffees, but if you write an article, it's already done, right? Like you can't contribute to the product. But there wasn't anything. Like I kept on getting back these things, and I think he pulled some strings.
Okay.
Because I got a letter back from Spiegel TV, Der Spiegel news magazine, the documentary program division. Mm-hmm. They would do documentaries, like they did one while I was there on Ebola, for example. Oh, wow. They did one on an Indian doctor who was this philanthropist. They did one when the first, it was a collection of World War II footage in color. And so Spiegel TV was like the first one to do this big documentary of World War II in color. That was when I was there. And so they wrote me back and said, okay, Hamburg, you got to pay for it and do, you know, like no money and everything. You got to figure it out. This to this date. And I think he pulled strings.
Okay. I think somebody he knew.
I think he knew someone somewhere and it went through. Maybe
Have
not.
you ever asked him?
No. I don't want to know.
You don't know why not? You don't want to know?
I don't want to know. Okay. I mean,
why not?
If he did, thank you. But if he did, great. You know, it means that the hard work that we did together, applying to all these places, worked out. And like he was he basically ghost wrote my application and everything. Yeah. He like really directed me on that stuff. And so then he said, okay, I'm paying you a little bit of money for an apartment there.
Okay. And,
you know, I will drive you to Hamburg. All of that stuff. Like he helped with all of that.
How'd you feel about all this?
I was really excited about it. I was scared too. You know, it was just, so this was after, by the way, this was after the Japan stint too, right? Yeah. So I went back to Germany for
So this happened. You're in Germany. Yeah. You go to Japan. You come back. You're listless.
Yeah. So
and then he does this. So he intercedes. You have your degree at this point.
Yeah. Okay. And so
sorry, I didn't realize.
No. Everything. It's been a long time. Everything. You know, and my girlfriend was with me then. We actually moved together from Japan.
So you come back to Germany. So, like I'm smoking Lucky Strikes. I'm hanging out with my girlfriend. I don't really I finished college. I don't really know what I want to do now. And that's when he's pushed.
Yep. Yeah, and I started.
So as an adult,
I started to smoke when I was like 15, by the way. So you know, I stopped for a while, started again. I was really good at quitting multiple times, and then you know, I started again and was smoking a lot. And like after college, I wasn't quite as rudderless as when I was a teenager, and you know, like he kind of drove me into that college in Japan too.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't quite as rudderless. I was like, yeah, I want to do something with writing after learning all this and having more of a worldview. And then he helped me with this internship. and I did that. I lived in Hamburg in the tiniest apartment. We couldn't afford anything. Like you'd go to like the Hamburg fish market and you'd look at like this bread with shrimps on it, and you're like, oh man,
I would love some bread with shrimp on
too much. We can't afford this.
So you had to get the bread without the shrimp?
I did that, yeah, exactly. And then, my wife helped me there. She actually studied German at the time, too. You know, we lived in Hamburg for a while for this internship.
Your dad actually funded their startup. Yeah. Like, he built the foundation there.
Yeah, he built the foundation. And he was just super pushy. You know, he realized that I needed that extra kick. And then something clicked when I did that internship at Spiegel. First of all, everybody loved me there because I was the only computer literate guy in this newsroom.
Okay.
And I started organizing
that Atari
stuff.
Home computer pays off right there.
And I was, I'd done some programming too. And so I was like, wow, you guys haven't even organized your contact database for all these newspaper critics and TV stations. And so they're like, oh yeah, call all these guys and get them to write about our episode of this documentary so that they write a little like critique or like, hey, watch this show. And so I'd say like, well, how do you even organize yourself? Let me build this database of contacts. And I did that. And they're like, whoa, how did you do that, right? Yeah. And then they'd say, okay, why don't you help logging a documentary? And so I helped logging footage, writing down time code and saying like, Ebola monkey spitting up blood and like writing all this stuff. And they just loved the precision. They loved, I was very fast at it. They would get stuff. Oh, hey, there's some, this is in English. Can you help? I'm like, sure, I'll translate it all. So I did all that.
Were you used to being good at things that other people gave you kudos for? Had that happened before?
Yeah. So I was always, I was a jack of all trades. I was able to quickly understand technology related stuff. So computers, all that, music. I started writing songs when I was a teenager and all that. Like anything I tackle, I kind of half-ass it, but I'd have a knack for it. And I never saw it through. I never pursued it. Mm-hmm. Same with languages. Like I could have learned Spanish and more languages, but I just didn't have the drive. It's like if the school didn't tell you to do it, I'd be like, fine.
But this you were pursuing. This you found.
Yeah, and then in this internship, I kind of realized, I'm like, man, this stuff could be fun. And by the way, at the time, I was terrified to pick up a phone and cold call somebody. I really did not like that. I was like the quintessential young male who would not ask for directions when lost.
Oh, okay.
Right? Oh. Like I never, and like they,
was that human interface?
I just didn't like, I was a good kind of moderator, very social. If I went to a party, I'd instantly get people around me and be an entertainer and be goofy and all that. But like calling somebody on the phone and asking them for something, like write up something about this thing we're working on, did not like doing it. Okay. And it forced me to do that.
Okay.
Right? And so it kind of set me on this course. I then, I had already applied for grad school journalism at UC Berkeley.
Yeah.
So, in Germany, plans to go to the United States. The BA, my degree, my college degree, didn't really work in Germany. Very different systems, right? I would have had to take classes over, and so it worked though with the US one,
right?
And then kind of was set on a course to pursue that. And
this was all your dad sitting at a typewriter, pounding out your applications.
Yeah. No, and that was ultimately. Like in hindsight, I just realized, not only did with his move to Japan and encouragement to go to college, and so what if you leave all your friends behind? That encouragement set me on a course to go to Japan, where I got a perspective on things. I rediscovered the joys of video games. I'd completely ignored video games for many years. My wife and a friend gave me a Super Famicom for my birthday, sucked me back into games. I'm like, Nintendo is awesome.
Did she ever regret that decision?
No, I'm sure for a while when I was doing all-nighters playing Final Fantasy IV, she was like, honey, but no, like in hindsight, obviously not. I was ever able to.
The video game kind of thing worked out pretty well for you, I think.
But I also got exposed to all these media companies in Japan. I did translation work. I subtitled Tom Petty and Bob Dylan for MTV because nobody could understand what they were saying. Neither could I. I made it up.
Oh, you did?
My wife and I had such a hard time. We're like, what did Tom Petty say? You were like, what? What is he saying? We're like, I like a sandwich, and you'd be fine with it. Who will
like
ever
you could
know?
look the lyrics up on the internet.
No, but we got Tom Petty and Bob Dylan, like the toughest cookies.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. But Bob Dylan, like, to this day, I don't know what he said. But it exposed me to all these things. So, but he exposed me to Japan. He exposed me to those media companies.
Yeah.
But I met my wife in Japan.
Yeah.
The ultimate love of my life. Set me on this course. Have wonderful kids. Wouldn't have happened without my dad.
Huh. So, the hug.
Yeah.
When did that come along?
Well, that happened, like when I was in Japan, it already clicked. I'm like, I would walk through the streets of Tokyo and go, it's so different. It's like the Wizard of Oz moment where you realize you're not in Kansas anymore. And like everything was so different. And I loved it. Yeah. I walked around and I saw these old temples next to the most modern skyscrapers. I went to this temple called Kyomizu-dera. And there are 3 springs, and you have to pick which one to drink from. One gives you wisdom, one gives you beauty, I think, and one gives you health.
I thought you were going to say power and courage for a second. I got really excited.
Yeah, Triforce. You have to pick one. I'm not telling you which one I picked.
Oh, you're going to tell me? I was about to
I didn't pick beauty because I was already
so
I picked. You take one, you drink from it, and then it's this ancient temple, and you put it back. This wooden spoon, put it back, and this infrared beam sterilizes it, and you're like, this country is freaking awesome. And like when I was exposed to all this crazy technology next to this absolutely exotic ancient culture, I'm like, I realized I had to thank this man for it.
Yeah.
Like he exposed me to this. He dragged me there. He believed in being in that country enough to say, you have to go there and you have to come there. And from that moment, I think our relationship really changed. He was still super strict. Yeah. When my then girlfriend, we're talking about a 20-year-old living in Tokyo, still rooming with my parents in my own room, basement and all that. My then girlfriend missed her train home. We were too scared for her to sleep in my room because my dad was so strict. Mm-hmm.
Scared that would.
Yeah, no, he was so conservative. We were already having sex then, so it's not like he was preventing anything.
Right,
but he was such
that classic trope where the father's like, not under my roof.
He would have been, he was like that. My mom was like, totally fine, just sneak her in. And
did you sneak her in?
No, but like our relationship at that point changed. And now, when I visit him, and he is the dad with my kids now that he was not.
Oh, that's interesting.
He discovered that connection. He's goofy with the kids.
What do you think happened? Is it because he doesn't have to provide for them? Is it because the work of provision is over? Or
well, I think he had the same existential dread I had as a teenager, but amplified because he was worried about his kids. Mm-hmm. So he looked at his 3 kids, he looked at his wife, and he said, my job is to make sure there's a happy ending for everyone. And I think he just kind of gave up a lot to make that happen, including the relationships and the harmony and he didn't stop to think that there was this other part to relationships, that it wasn't just planning for the future and squirreling away the nuts in the tree,
your story is speaking very personally to me right now without being dramatic. I've had to reevaluate the way I think about provision, direction. A lot of the things that are a lot of priorities in life over the last few years. And more I've been thinking I may have made an overcorrection in some of those changes. What you're saying here is a good thing for me to be hearing right now. I appreciate
that's good.
it. That's nice to hear, man.
Yeah.
And I'm glad at the same time that your father found that, and that it also really speaks pretty highly of you that you're able to. A lifetime's worth of anger is not an easy thing to lay aside.
No, for sure. When my daughter was born, first kid, 2001, the year we made contact.
That fine motion picture.
Yes, but that was the year she was born.
Actually, wait, 2010 is the year we made contact.
2001 is the original Space Odyssey. That's right.
2010 is the year we made
contact.
Whatever,
we made contact in 2001, and we touched that monolith, and it was
like... up there in space, a star child.
Yeah, that's right.
2010, not actually as good as
So anyway, we made contact with our daughter. So when she was born, we surprised my dad by booking a secret trip to go to Germany for his birthday. And we had told him, kid's too young, we can't travel yet, all of that stuff. And we told my mom, and so we just showed up while he was watching soccer. He's sitting, so kids, his son and daughter-in-law, he loves my wife. We live in San Francisco, and he lives in the middle of Germany, and he's watching soccer. And the door opens, and we walk in with the baby. So he had seen photos of the baby. He just he lost it. It was such a wonderful moment.
Did you lose it?
Oh yeah, we have it on videotape somewhere, and it's just like he just looked. He stared at us. He couldn't believe it. He didn't his mind wasn't working. He's like, what? Yeah. How is this possible? You know, we talk on the phone on the weekends. And so we're there, and he's like, oh, my God. And my mom is just fawning over the baby, and, and we had this wonderful time. And it just, that moment, I feel like the connection he forged with my daughter and with my wife. And ever since then, it's just been very harmonious. And, my daughter's going to fly over there to just hang out with my grandparents this summer again. Whenever she goes, they pamper her. We get photos of them going. There's a summer sled track. It's like a bobsled track with polished metal tubes.
Yep.
And I'll get pictures of my 77-year-old dad with the kids on it.
Because a concrete luge, that's not dangerous, right?
No, dude, it's so dangerous. I'm very worried, but it's amazing. Yeah. But all these things that he would never have done as a young man with his kids, he's now doing with the grandparents. He goes to Disneyland. He takes them everywhere. He goes ice cream. He's like, do you know spaghetti ice cream? Spaghetti ice cream. Here, it looks like spaghetti. It's not spaghetti. All these things. And so, of course, the kids always want to go.
Have you forgiven him then?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, wholly. No, he's just been very genuine. He can still be a pain in the ass. He is the guy, if you mention something to him and you say, oh, next week I'm going to chop down that tree. He will become the biggest pain in your ass until you've chopped down that tree. It's target acquired. It becomes his mission, but that's his personality, okay. Right? The moment you do it, and so he still does that. But he is so giving. He if you go to a restaurant, he'll always try to pay for you and all that. And so in turn, we've made a point out of giving back. And so, we invited my parents to a getaway to Lake Tahoe, for example. Yeah. And, we climbed up a volcano with them. And, I don't know if that was such a good thing because it was really hard. But we're on top of this volcano, and you could see just my parents, how happy they were. Oh, wow. We took them to Hawaii for the first time. So, every couple of years, we've just done this thing. We said, hey, it's your 50th wedding anniversary. We're going to go to Hawaii.
I'm so glad. Yeah. John Updike has made a career on the fact that father-son stories often don't end well.
Yeah.
I'm really happy this one does. I really am, because father-son relationships can be extraordinarily difficult, and often they end in terrible or tragic or unfulfilled ways. I'm thrilled to hear that this one has turned out so well for everyone involved.
You're putting your finger on something. My wife's relationship with her father, who's now deceased, did not work out well. Mm-hmm. It was something I could not imagine, where she wouldn't want to see him. She didn't want to talk to him. And, even though he was instrumental in getting her to go to Japan, and so set her on this course to actually meet me, right? All this butterfly effect of being in the right place at the right time. And she has a great relationship with her mom, really bad relationship with her father. And now I can't imagine it. And I kind of forget how it was when I was a kid, how I felt like I had zero connection with my dad, and all the connection with my mom. And now it's just, I love seeing them, and my kids love them, and
it's a good reminder that
it's a happy ending.
Sometimes impossible changes happen.
Yeah.
Unthinkable change can occur. It doesn't always. Yep. Sometimes exactly the horrible thing you expect is what happens, but sometimes unthinkable change occurs.
Yeah.
And that's pretty great.
And you think about whether you could have done more, right? As a teenager, I was probably not a nice kid, right? I was not what he wanted. I was not this academic, I was not acing everything, and he had to constantly push me to do things, and smoking and like drinking beer and all that.
My mental image of you at this point is like you've got a pack of cigarettes under each sleeve.
Yeah.
Like
I didn't do hard drugs or anything, so it wasn't or get arrested or anything like that. So not quite that way, but I did have the white T-shirt with a rolled up Lucky Strikes pack. Yeah, I love James Dean, I wonder, like, maybe I could have connected, but honestly, I think we just didn't have anything in common.
That's amazing.
So,
hey, thank you for that story.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's a good one. I think it's a good place to kind of take the hard left turn to the rest of the show, where we do instant noodles. If you enjoyed this story or the other stories in Pockets Full of Soup, please subscribe on YouTube or follow us on iTunes or other places. Join our Facebook group. Pockets Full of Soup Facebook group is free. And if you're feeling especially generous this month, our Patreon can always use your help. That's patreon.com/Jared Petty, which keeps us on the air. So yeah, I unabashedly don't mind begging, and if you want to support this, I'd really appreciate it. I also want to especially thank Nick Rie and Robert Nieder, who are Patreon producers, whose generous support really does just keep us going month after month. It's extraordinary, and so many others of you that support in so many ways. We've had a lot of fun in the Hangouts lately. Some of our members go to those. Next month we're going to play Jackbox together for the first time in the Facebook group. I'm excited about that. That'll be fun. You ever fool with those the Jackbox games?
No, I've seen them. Yeah, I play a lot of board games, but
okay. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, guys, thank you for everything, men and women alike. I appreciate your sponsorship and assistance. Folks want to find you, they're going to find you at ye old. It's not the Imagine Games Network. It's
just IGN.
I've heard you can't spell ignorant without it, but
you can also not do Malignant, or you can't do Dane or Ignatius Rocks.
There we go.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, there are a lot of words that have IGN in it, and if you misspell the ing ending, I mean literally.
Yeah, can you explain that to people for a second that don't know the story? Why it's just IGN?
Well, I mean the company that created IGN, Imagine Media.
Yeah.
I think it was like Imagine Publishing or something back in the day. So it was the Imagine Games Network. All of their magazines together, basically, like their Next Generation Online, Ultra Game Players Online, N64.com, which was an online magazine only. All that together was the Imagine Games Network. And that was an ad network, and of course, that name it was abbreviated IGN. That became the name of the website once we merged all those different websites into one.
Right.
But we spun out. Many years ago, IGN spun out as a standalone company. I was a co-founder of it in 1999.
Yeah.
We went public and all of that, and went private again and survived the .com bust. But some of our other properties did not. And that's why it's so important to support what you love. And I'm happy services like Patreon exist.
They keep it going.
If you don't nurture, give great feedback, or pay for the things that you love, they will go away.
So cutting away now to instant noodles. We usually open with this one. This was originally from our Facebook group. What is best sandwich?
What is best sandwich?
Yes,
I have a question.
What is best sandwich?
What is best sandwich?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Kind of a lightning round version here. What do you got?
Everybody's gonna be horrified.
All right.
It's liverwurst.
No, do not be horrified. Liverwurst is great.
You don't know the pain I was in when I first moved to California, and was looking for the perfect sausage.
Okay.
Right? And that included liverwurst. Like, Germany has amazing meats.
Yes.
We have amazing meats. No, like the butcher shops, charcuteries, they're just amazing. And so I moved to California. That culture didn't exist here. Probably exists on the East Coast much more.
But not
like
an
Wisconsin.
Amazing meat culture here.
Couldn't find liverwurst that didn't taste like licking iron. Like really irony.
Do you feel like the sausage just poorly recipeed here? Like there's just not...
Well, Californians smoked the crack of thinking apples and chicken belong in every sausage for a while. Okay. Everything was chicken apple sausage or ooh, apricots. It's like, no, pork, majorum, spices, and the casing is made from intestines.
Okay.
Sounds gross. It's good.
Got to get it right.
Yeah, and so, just a Nuremberg or a bratwurst, I had a hard time finding it. I created an Excel spreadsheet. I ordered sausages from everywhere. I got amazing sausages from Wisconsin. I discovered a butcher in LA.
Okay. You've told me about
Torrance.
this. Yeah.
And we still drive to LA to fill up the trunk and coolers and freezers with sausages and bring them back here because they don't ship.
You want to throw a little love toward this place?
Yeah, it's called Alpine Village. It's a butcher at Alpine Village Market in Torrance, California, south of LA. You can eat there, but it's not, the restaurant is not that great. It's the sausages and the cold cuts and everything. And they make the most amazing liverwurst. And that's the kind of stuff I'm into.
So the liverwurst sandwich. What bread do you want your liverwurst on?
It doesn't matter. Like, I mean, another sore spot here, bread in California. It's baguette and white bread. Now it's getting better again, but like a nice, like crusty rye bread or something.
Okay, so nice crusty rye. Do you eat anything but meat and bread on the sandwich?
Butter.
You have butter.
Yeah,
Okay, so
gotta have some good butter.
Are you familiar with the southeastern phenomenon in America of liver mush?
What is it?
Liver mush is just what it sounds like, a combination of liver, spices, and mush turned into sort of a pate, and then fried.
That sounds really good. So in Germany, we have something, in my area, we have something called panas,
Okay.
which sounds harmless, but it's actually fried blood sausage.
Oh,
So blood sausage is made from blood.
Yeah.
It's curdled blood with little white specks in it, and they fry it up. And then in Cologne, it's called Himmel und Erd. It's heaven and earth, and it's like what is it? It's like apple compote and fried blood sausage.
Oh man, that sounds good. You like it?
Yeah, it's so good. It's
Yeah,
really good.
that's
But I know it sounds disgusting to
Don't
most
diss it
humans.
till you tried
It's
it.
whatever you grow up with. My mom used to make sour kidneys, and that was good.
I like kidney. I like liver. I like things like that. Yeah.
Don't need awful people.
Give me
You're
protein.
so awful.
Give me some protein.
Yeah.
Give it to me. The
Yeah.
flesh of the dead creature. Feed it unto me.
That's just
I want to
disgusting,
eat it.
Jared.
What's
What are you
that?
doing? What's
What?
going on?
Flesh?
Okay, yeah.
Dead creature
yeah.
flesh is good stuff, man. So a follow up from Damien. He wants to know: is a hot dog a sandwich?
Is a hot dog a sandwich? Yeah.
Yeah.
A hot dog is a sandwich.
Does
yeah.
it count as a
Yeah.
sandwich?
Yeah. I mean, I think people here in this country have started to call hot dogs just the sausage sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's obviously incorrect.
You thought it's the whole thing.
A
on
hot
the
dog
bun.
is the sandwich, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to know what your favorite. Yeah, I think this is probably this is Nate, and he wants to know what your favorite beer is.
Oh, man, that's a tough one. Oh, God. I drink so many different beers.
How do you stay so pretty?
I'm not. I'm a lot fatter than I've ever been. And now I'm even fatter.
I could fit two of you in.
No, I need to lose a lot of weight. Like my face used to be skinny.
Also, that's going to be a meme.
So I grew. So I lived. I was born in a small town close between two big cities, Düsseldorf and Cologne.
Yeah.
Düsseldorf is famous for Alt beer. That's a dark beer, and I really loved kind of Diebels Alt. Cologne is famous for Kirsch. You can only brew it if your brewery has a direct line of sight of the cathedral in Cologne.
That's
so if
the
you
rule.
get Kirsch beer in the United States, it has to be Kirsch style. It can't be Kirsch.
Wait, so if there's a tree, it doesn't count?
Well, you can get on the roof and see it still.
Okay,
And that
all right.
cathedral is very big,
Okay.
if you haven't seen it.
But still.
It's humongous.
All right.
So I grew up between these two. Funny thing is, people from Düsseldorf hate Kirsch. People from Cologne hate Alt. So it's this soccer rivalry taken to
love
beer.
that.
And I was in between, in the Grenzland, and liked them both.
Okay.
And so I love a good Kirsch, like a Mühlenkirsch. It's a summer beer. It's 5%. It's not super heavy. But I also like saisons. I like sours now.
Okay.
I love that some of the old beers are coming back. For a while, Germany's very strict, right? They have the law that only certain ingredients are allowed in beer.
I didn't know that. Actually.
Yeah, that's 1400 something. I don't know. Reinheitsgebot. Look it up. And that actually killed some of the old kind of medieval brews, like
Really?
your Gose, which is a sour beer.
Was this
The
to?
Belgians have always done them.
Where did the law come from? Was it just to protect the distinctiveness of
German
beer?
purity law, yeah. And do you know what? I haven't actually read up on why it happened. I'm assuming it. I mean, a lot of beers come from the monasteries, and they just decided to keep for this kind of national pride of brewing beer. It's a beer country. You only allow certain things. But then they took it to the extreme, being Germans, right? They said, you can't put anything else in it. And then, well, what about Hefeweizen? Has, it's like wheat beers. Okay, wheat is fine. It's almost like a Monty Python skit.
No, it does.
But
really
it
does.
killed, it almost killed some of the other beers. Like there's like Schwarzbier, which is like, they have like smoky beers and all that. And I think some of those were at risk.
Did some breweries move over the border to Belgium? For that?
No, I think they did stop making things like Gose.
Wow.
And well, I don't know if it's directly related to the purity law. Like I think it just fell out of style too. Some of them, and you could brew them, you just couldn't call them beer. It's like malt liquor. You know?
Weird. Okay, so you can make it, you just can't call it beer.
I'm so obsessed. Just so you know, I have matching glasses for the different beers. So I have the chalice types for the saison. I have pilsners. I have the wheat glasses, the tall ones. I have the Kölsch as a Stange that doesn't have a handle. If I have if I drink a Sapporo, it has a little Sapporo star in the glass too. It's a weird German thing.
You mentioned Japanese beer. You're from what's arguably the world's greatest beer nation. What were your thoughts on Japanese beer?
So the Japanese actually took a lot of knowledge in a lot of industries from Germany.
Yeah.
Whether it's from law, duplicating laws or industry, but also Hokkaido, like the northern part of Japan, took a lot from Germany when it came to beer brewing.
Yeah.
And so the unfortunate fact, Americans, if you're drinking Sapporo and Asahi and Kirin, you're not drinking Japanese beers. You're drinking Anheuser-Busch. You're drinking locally brewed beers, either from here or from, was it Molson, Canada. So you get, some are from Canada, some are from LA. Mm-hmm. It's not what they taste like originally.
Not the same. No, it's close. It's close enough that I enjoy it, but it's not the same.
So but it's far enough that when I had one, I said, this tastes different. After 4 years in Japan, and I looked at the back, and some of them say imported, but it's imported from Canada.
Yeah.
And so the beers in Japan, they have many different labels. You see the Kuro, the black label here,
right.
But there are many more. They make so many different ones. And just some of the microbrews like Hitachi no came up. They did Koshi Hikari is rice, right? They make a rice beer, and they do have rice in some of the macro brews too.
Yeah.
And it's different, but it's crisp, and Japan gets hot, man.
The
summer's hot. Those crisp beers,
fantastic.
So and Japan ices your glass, man. They know how to give
Frost
you
a
nice,
and you get a big old bottle and a teeny tiny glass.
Yeah. And when you're with somebody, you're supposed to constantly fill their beer, and it speaks to my heart. Cologne's beer culture is, if you order a Kölsch, and you finish it, they put a new Kölsch there, and they're smaller, 0.2 glasses.
Yeah,
but they constantly give you new ones until you put like a coaster on top
just
and
be like,
say
gotta
stop
here. I didn't know that. That's
and in
great.
Japan, they'll keep on pouring your glass too.
All right, another kind of a hard turn here. What's the most terrifying creature in the natural world?
The most what?
Terrifying
creature in the natural world.
Yeah.
Well, it is from Australia for sure.
Okay.
Right. Everything terrifying comes from Australia.
That's actually we had Panda on the show to talk about that one day.
Oh wow. Yeah. I mean,
we invented a spider shark.
No, I mean, look, I think it's the great white shark for sure.
Oh, the great white.
The great white is the most terrifying creature, and there is that little Amazon fish that drills itself into genitals, and the little worms with the teeth that aren't supposed, or like the amoeba with the 6 little bare legs and all that. There are some truly horrifying creatures in this world that are just disgusting, or like those tapeworms and things. Great white shark, you just look at that face, and like there's nothing that can redeem it. Like, it's just not like the eyes. It's just black holes. There's no. It looks like it knows what it's doing, but you can't reason with it. You can't talk to it, and it's powerful, and it's huge, and it's got these nasty teeth, and one falls out and another one takes its place. It's just this nasty, improbable creature, and I think they're so fascinating.
Yeah. But it feels monstrous in a way.
As a kid, I was traumatized after watching Jaws. There were 2 movies that really freaked me out: The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock. Probably not that scary anymore nowadays, but I was too scared to like take off my shirt when putting on my PJs, because I was like, the birds are there. Like, just looking away for a second. Jaws was the same. Whenever I was swimming in a lake, rationally knowing there can't be a saltwater shark in this lake, I was still scared. I always imagined that giant creature underneath.
Okay, I have to ask you something. The 2 movies that terrified you as a child were The Birds and Jaws.
Yeah.
You live in the North Bay.
Yeah. I live very close to the great white breeding grounds. Yeah,
where they film The Birds.
And The Birds. I've been to the place. Yeah.
You live where they film The Birds, and you live in one of the greatest great white breeding grounds in the whole world.
Yes, yeah. You go to the lighthouse.
Is this some kind of like far out masochism?
No, so I mean, I don't find them terrifying anymore. I snorkel and dive and all
do you?
that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I love it, and I'm not that scared. My wife is deathly afraid of fish, but I'm not anymore. I've been able to get over that, and I love movies, man. I've done all the tours. I've driven to the town up here at Bodega Bay, right,
Yeah.
where they filmed the birds, and you can see the spot where the diner was and all that. And there are a lot of birds up here, man.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, it's just awesome. It's great. If you're ever in California, Northern California, lots to see here, but also don't forget all the films that were made here.
Oh, so many movies made in this area.
American Graffiti here in San Rafael, too.
Exactly. Not far away at all. A lot of Hitchcock stuff.
Lucas.
Vertigo, Birds.
You go into
Lucas
the
here.
Muir Woods area or any of the redwoods, you can see Endor.
Yeah,
right.
It's kind of fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a great area for film, and I love movies too. You and I talked remarkably little about movies when we worked together, which is odd because I think we both love them.
Well, I was scared that you would tell me everything about movies.
No, I'm not.
And I wouldn't be able to get back to work.
No, I did keep you from working a lot. We both got in fairly early.
We talked a lot. And Jared is a very detail oriented man.
It can be distracting.
And it was awesome.
My
and
favorite
I
was
don't
when
know
you
when we
would
talked
wander-
a lot about movies. I mean,
Yeah, we never talked much about. You would wander over and be like, "So, what do you think about that?" Or I would stop by your desk and say, "What do you think about that?"
Yeah,
I
know.
But I think more than anything, was usually Nintendo stuff. That was
we talked about games a lot. But I mean, my favorite director of all time is Kurosawa.
Oh, okay.
right. Like Seven Samurai is just the best movie.
It's
like
kinda
every
perfect.
face in that movie is there for a reason. Every shot is done for a reason. Rashomon has the best rain you've ever seen in cinematic history. Like Ron has the craziest colors you've ever seen.
I was going to ask you about Ron, like where you fall on Ron.
I like him. I like most of the movies. I think the later, like Mara Dayo, like they're not as strong, but all of his films are very good.
I feel like Ron practically punches you in the face with color.
Yeah.
And I love that about it. It's just like, we have color, folks. Let's do some color.
I've always wanted to do a documentary on like the Kurosawa movies and the movies they inspired.
Yeah.
Obviously, like Yojimbo and like Seven Samurai was remade as Magnificent Seven. We have Clint Eastwood stuff.
It inspired everything.
And I mean, A Bug's Life is Seven Samurai, right? But also like High and Low, amazing movie nobody's ever seen is Payback with I think it's called Payback with Mel Gibson,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
which is a remarkably good movie.
Wait, is it Payback? That's the one with Lucy Liu, huh?
Yeah, Lucy Liu and Mel Gibson is
No,
Payback,
it's another
yeah.
one. It's like where his
Oh, you're talking about High and Low. What High and Low?
Yeah, High and Low
becomes?
got remade as another Mel Gibson movie. It's a kidnapping story. I forget what it was called. Payback was awesome.
There's
too.
Ransom.
Yeah.
Is that the one you're thinking
Ransom.
of? Yeah, Ransom.
That's it. Yeah. Ransom, and then Rashomon got remade. Like there's a Paul Newman version of Rashomon.
Yeah, the guy's influential, and then it just touches so many things that make popular culture what it is today. If you just take one step away,
So good.
If you've never watched Seven Samurai, and if you're one of those folks that, understandably, maybe frightened by black and white films or watching a 3-hour movie in another language, it's beyond worth it. And if you think it's a little slow at the beginning, just watch, turn your phone off, and don't let anything interrupt you, and sit down in the dark and watch 3 hours of great movie. Because, man, the payoff.
He was able to show you. He introduces the character introduction in Seven Samurai is this guy, this really kind of daddy-like samurai recruiting all these other samurai, and like he tests them. They walk into a room and he has somebody stand behind the door with a sword just to test whether they would know what to do.
Yeah.
And every character walks in, reacts differently. There's the rash guy who doesn't see him,
right?
And they don't want him, but he of course has a heart of gold.
He overwins them, right? Or wins over them, yeah.
And then there's the guy who instantly sees the shadow and goes, "Whing!" Right?
Yeah.
Like the sword comes out, and every character is introduced so perfectly.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop geeking out.
It's
but
the same
so
test.
Good.
They all respond in a different way, but the response is always appropriate, and it tells you something about the character.
Yep.
I love that. Yeah.
So since I don't have you, I have the kids though, and I make them watch some of the classics. I watch Psycho with my daughter.
What'd you think of it?
She liked it. I mean, I don't think she was scared.
Yeah.
I think the movies don't, they're not as terrifying as they were back then. People fainted in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
Back then, before my time, by the way,
Psycho, it's been done so much that you know what's going to happen. And that takes a lot away. I think if you didn't know that the main character of the movie was going to die before your eyes half an hour in.
And just the guts. I mean, it starts out with an actress in a bra.
Yeah.
And that's just the shock to the audiences back then. And then he shows a shot of a toilet where the censor said, you can't show a toilet in a movie.
Yeah.
And he's like, why not?
Yeah.
And then it's just...
And he's setting it up. For an audience of that period, you're kind of turned on. You're kind of grossed out.
Yeah.
And then, I can't remember who I first heard point this out. This movie's been dissected to death. But, when the killing happens, she's naked. She's in the shower where people slip and hurt themselves. There's blood.
You're vulnerable in a shower because you can't see through the curtain.
Exactly. You can't see. You're trapped. It's just all these scary things are happening at once. And it's...
So we said we're not talking about movies.
We're definitely not.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right. What word from German do you wish had an English counterpart?
Well, I mean, there are a couple. There's definitely Schadenfreude.
Okay.
Do you know Schadenfreude?
I know it. I don't know how to define it exactly.
Well, it's taking pleasure in somebody's misfortune.
Okay, is that the closest way to put it?
But mostly it's because it gets butchered, just like Zeitgeist, the ghost, the spirit of the times.
Yeah,
like people turn into Zeitgeist and all that, and it's a little painful. But I understand. The corruption as we try to use the term. We borrowed plenty of words from English and bastardized them, and people talk about kits all the time. Oh, look at the kits.
Well, I mean, English is we steal a lot of words. I can't say. I'm afraid to say the words now.
Honestly.
But no, I get that. I'm used to seeing them in writing.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid to say
so
that.
Schadenfreude, it's crazy to me that there is not a word equivalent,
That we just don't have anything quite to fit.
Yeah. And you have, German is like language as made from Lego. You can take any words and put them together, right? So English is not constructed the same way. So if you go to VW's commercial Fahrvergnügen, right? It's just enjoyment of driving.
Yeah.
But in German, it's driving enjoyment. You just put those two Lego blocks together.
And
you can make a giant freaking Lego construction with German words. And so Schadenfreude, you do have enjoyment and you have damage, literally the two words, enjoyment of damage.
Was it Mark Twain who said you take some German and then you take some German and you shovel some German in between them and you have German?
He was very clever. I love Mark Twain. He had some amazing observations.
You can have some words of extraordinary length.
Yeah, he said something about like the German sentence like a diver or something, and in the end he comes up with a verb in the mouth at the end of the sentence or something. I forget what the quote is. It's just awesome.
Well, here's a follow-up question then from someone. This is from Thomas, who just asks English or German. When it comes to speaking a language, you said you spoke. You also speak Japanese. You speak some French. What language of all the ones that you speak? Which one do you enjoy using the most?
So I'm most comfortable now in English, just because I've lived in the United States for so long, and I've lived abroad longer than in Germany. Right, I left Germany when I was 19. I'm in my mid-40s now, and so I speak English with my family, and I think I dream in English too.
Oh wow!
Like when I stub my toe, I don't think "aua,"
Yeah.
I scream English expletives.
What's the first word you think of when you hear the sound of your own voice?
The sound of my own voice?
Yeah.
That's a weird question.
We ask that at every guest, or practically every guest.
Right now it's E3 because I lost my voice at E3 and it never quite came back.
Okay, so was that just from shouting on the show floor? Or?
Well, we did a meet and greet for fans the before the show, and unfortunately the music was very loud. And our fans are awesome. They have a lot of questions, and I want to answer them, and so I had to yell every answer. And then at the end of the night, it was just
gone.
And then every day I had to talk a lot.
It's bad because you're going to be on camera every day after that, or interviewing or talking.
No, I actually when I hear myself speak, I can still hear my accent. I think when I talk when I speak English and there are Germans in the room, everybody always says, "Oh, your English is so good. How you speak like a native." I'm like, no, I can hear words, and like my kids will once in a while they'll make fun of something I say, and just I'm like, yeah, well, we'll see when you guys all speak German.
What do your kids speak German?
The boys are super lazy. The girl is not as lazy, so she can understand a ton. But we unfortunately didn't have that focus to only speak in German. I wish we had done that when they were little, just to give them that gift of true kind of bilingual education. But it's never too late. Nice. I didn't start learning English until I was 12. So
I'm surprised by that, actually.
Yeah,
wow, wow, I did not know that. I'm very surprised by that.
I think they can do the same.
What's your favorite word?
My favorite word is probably flabbergasted.
Oh, that's a great word.
Yeah, flabbergasted. It's just it's like you look at that word and you say you can't use that today anymore, but you can.
Yeah.
You can. It looks like something out of an old, like, I was flabbergasted, right?
Well, I love when anachronistic words are
but
brought back.
But it's like flabber is like almost onomatopoeia. It's like,
it sounds like what it is. Yeah,
and so, no, I love that.
great.
I've always loved that word.
No, that's a marvelous
What's your favorite
Good
word?
choice. Juxtapose.
That's a really good word, too.
Juxtapose
I
is
like
my favorite
juxtaposed.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah, juxtapose. There's a J and an X and a weird word. There's all kinds of weird letter constructions going on, and it sounds great. And it's got a great meaning, and that's my favorite.
I once we interviewed Udo Kier as a German actor. He was in like the what are the vampire movies with Kate Beckinsale?
Yeah, I know who he is.
Udo Kier was like one of the head vampires and great German actor. And we interviewed him. He came to IGN once, and we spoke German. He's like, "Oh, German!" And he started speaking German, and it was very quickly apparent what his favorite word was, because I had licorice from Holland, and he looked at it and he said, "Salzlakritz, Salzlakritz, Salzlakritz." And he was just so infatuated with that word, and he couldn't stop anymore. It was so hilarious.
What does that mean?
Salty licorice.
Okay.
That's all it said.
Oh, so that's the weird Swedish salty licorice stuff.
Okay. Not weird. It's amazing.
It's a little weird.
Shout out to our Norse friends, man, like, Sweden and Norway and the Danish too. But, and the Dutch they make licorice. Like, Americans think licorice is like little red vines and stuff. No, it's black. It's made from roots, and the Nordic countries and Holland and Germany to put salt, like ammonium chloride, on that stuff.
They really do.
It's like a salt lick. Like if you've ever seen a goat licking like a block of salt and you snuck in there and licked that, that's what it's like.
I just got back from my second trip to Sweden. I love Sweden. I think I would have lived in Sweden. It's fantastic. I like black licorice, but man, the salt grenade is hard to... the Swedish salt grenade, by the way, I'm stealing that from another podcast you should totally check out. Good Job Brain, which is a wonderful show. And they invented that term, I think. But
they got licorice in the shape of guns and skulls and crossbones, so it's good stuff. Yeah, it looks like it'll kill you. And it always has the warnings like, hey, this is not for kids. Don't eat too many, because there's like the max level of ammonium chloride that's legal for licorice. And like if you just eat too much, your blood pressure rises.
It's pretty amazing.
It's more like wine and beer. Like, don't indulge too much in it.
Don't listen to this man. It's so run away. Phil asks, I've never heard him say this. What football club do you support?
I kind of fell out. The town I grew up in, it was Borussia Mönchengladbach. Mm-hmm. So Gladbach was our team, and then later, obviously, Cologne. I didn't support the Cologne team because they weren't very good. But Gladbach, Borussia was always the team. But moving to the United States, you kind of lose track of that. And first Japan, of course, right? You couldn't watch Bundesliga very easily. You had to pay up the wazoo for the channels to watch them here. The times were always terrible, so it kind of stopped. And then whenever it's World Cup time, I put the German flag out and scare the neighborhood. And obviously that worked out really well. I like to take credit for the last World Cup. That was all my beautiful German flag. I put out the American flag too for American holidays. So,
but you got the German one out there for the World Cup.
German national team. I am just it's in that order. It would be German national team. Then of course I root for the United States team because I live here, and then Japan. So it's in that order.
Yeah, I fell on the Japanese women's soccer team hype train pretty hard.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Amazing stuff going on in women's sports now.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked a lot. You've had a prestigious career in this industry. You've really caused a lot of wonderful things to happen. You talked about traveling to Japan. You worked, you're obviously a very famous elevator voice actor / fashion model, which I noticed you carefully glossed over. I would find those pictures.
So bad.
They exist. But I do think we have completely ignored your true claim to fame.
What's that?
Which is, of course, the fact that you are one of the internet's most memorable and consistent memes.
I see. Yeah, the meme.
Especially and a fairly early meme. As memes go, and a meme that while you recognize it here in America, I think it's difficult to overstate how culturally pervasive it became in Japan for a while.
It's scary.
It's kind of extraordinary. So lots of questions from people about this. I'm just going to go kind of with two of them. Exactly. Reaction guys.
Yeah.
You are the closest to the camera.
I'm
reaction
the
guy.
super excited guy.
You're the super excited guy in reaction guys. So first off, if people aren't familiar with it, can you explain the meme and where it came from?
Okay, so there are two pictures. One is, and there are four people in the shot. There's, I think in order, it's Per Schneider, me. Then it's, who's next? I forget. It's Matt Casamassina, Chad Chambers, who was our intern, is no longer in the industry. Matt is at Apple now. And Craig Harris, who works with Matt at Apple. They were all at IGN at the time. We were waiting for the Nintendo press conference to start. I think that's where the first picture was taken. It wasn't even a reaction, but we looked really dour, like bored. And I think that wasn't an actual reaction shot. I have to ask Corey Lewis, who took the picture back then, also at IGN at the time. But it's us looking really kind of down and bored.
Yeah, just sitting.
And it was us watching a Nintendo E3 conference, the one where we were all expecting amazing stuff. And instead, they focused on their collaboration with Namco on a multiplayer Pac-Man game.
Hey, that game is awesome.
Okay, so not going to talk crap about it. In hindsight, it's great, but that's not what you want from an E3 conference. You don't want Miyamoto coming out and going like, so excited that you can connect multiple Game Boys together to this console and play this asymmetrical multiplayer game. Because everybody goes, well, we're never going to do that. Come on, like the times you got together to play Four Swords, like everything had to align. You had to have full batteries because you couldn't charge when you linked up.
This is
it was not a good idea.
What you want from a press conference. First off, I have to and second, the DS version allows you to do 4 people with 1 cartridge.
Huh?
The DS version of that lets you do 4 people. With
so no, and like the moment you make that stuff easier, of course it's fun.
Pac-Man
like
Nintendo, so good.
Nintendo Land shows asymmetrical multiplayer can be super fun, and you don't need a lot to set up. But we're talking about the age of the Game Boy Advance cable.
I'm picking on you, but I would like to correct slightly. We're misrepresenting Pac-Man Versus in this case, which only required 1 Game Boy plugged into your GameCube.
Are you sure?
3 players,
I thought it was
3 players play on the screen and 1 plays on the.
Maybe that, but it was still that stupid connection. It was. It just didn't work. Oh my God. We ran out of battery playing Four Swords so many times on one of the Game Boys, and you couldn't do anything about it. And the game would end. It was,
That's painful.
The game was awesome.
They did require.
No, all of these games are good. All the ideas are good. But we were disappointed with the showing. And so our reaction then on IGN became this photo. We posted this photo, and quickly fans on IGN took that photo. Whenever there was some disappointing announcement, they would use that picture of us going, right? A year later, we knew Twilight Princess was going to be shown. We had seen it before it was revealed. We obviously had to keep mum and couldn't tell anybody.
I didn't know you knew ahead of time. Okay.
Well, Nintendo didn't know either that we had seen it before.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had an in, and we saw it. We faked a picture. We took that exact picture that we had. We sat in a row of chairs at E3 in the war room before the conference and took a picture of us then doing the opposite. Same order, but excited.
So the second picture was staged.
It was staged. It
Based
was
on
fake.
the first one becoming a minor meme.
Yes, it was a minor meme on IGN. May have hit like 4chan and some other message boards at the time already.
Everything I believe in is a lie.
I told IGN Japan this recently too. They asked about the meme and I explained it too. Yeah, they were surprised by that too. So the second one is staged. It's fake. It's my fake excitement, and Craig going like, and Matt like. So
the title of this episode is going to be a heartwarming story of a man and his father, and now it's going to be everything you believe is a lie.
Oh man!
All right, please continue.
I don't know, but then we posted that picture as a hype picture to our audience, and our audience immediately knew. When we're showing that picture, that Nintendo's conference would be a great one. And that was one of the all-time great conferences. Yeah. When you watch it, you got to watch it with the audience reaction. It was a stampede of cheers. And we're talking about the Conan soundtrack from the Ocarina of Time commercials coming back, and it's like, dun, 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 and it's Link swinging the sword for the first time while on the horse, and people lost their minds. And then those 2 pictures together somehow became this meme about you're disappointed by something and then they show you something else and you're excited.
Yeah, my understanding is it's based on a form of Japanese 4-panel manga.
Yonkoma,
right? Yeah. So you've got a panel that shows something. They show the disappointed reaction.
Yep.
A panel showing something that contrasts, and they show you guys looking happy.
Yeah.
And to this day, you see this.
So all the time, we didn't know that it had gotten that big in Japan until one of our IGN folks sent us a picture from an Akihabara electronics store where our meme was on the wall. It was like super sale, and it's like we're like excited. And then my wife works at a Japanese company, and like they'd be like, "Oh, you look familiar," and I'm like. And they're like, soda. Like, I'm like, how is this possible? How is it possible that so many people know this thing? And so this year at E3, IGN Japan brought a Japanese idol, like someone who's a woman who is a singer and an actress in Japan. She was just so happy to meet me, and we took a picture, and then she tweeted it out, and boom, my entire newsfeed is just Japanese retweets. And it's like, I don't know why it's so pervasive, why it's around. I've seen it in anime movies. It's in animes. It's been on magazine covers. It's been an achievement unlocked icon in a Japanese video game with the reaction guys. It's been in manga by famous artists. It's been in commercials. And I have a friend of mine brought me back stickers that he bought in Harajuku.
Oh, wow.
With it on
with
it.
That on it.
Yeah.
So one of the questions people wanted to know is, which of those adaptations, what's your favorite one? What are ones that you just really made you laugh?
There's one, I forget even the anime. There's one that is us as anime girls, and I have blue hair, and I'm super cute, and it's just very charming because it's the exact expression, the exact poses. They only do 3 of us, but like when I saw that one, I'm like, it looked very professionally done too.
That's really funny.
There are a lot of freaky, there are a lot of dirty ones too, like where fans created dirty adaptations of us reacting to something not so PC. Yeah. There's just tens and probably hundreds of thousands of these.
Wow.
It's crazy. Yeah. But, it's not a business. I mean, we're not making money from it, and we don't like license it or anything. It's just, it belongs to the community. And
it belongs to the world.
Belongs to the museum. No, it's out there. It's everyone's. Yeah.
All right. Last question for today. Cake or pie?
Cake or pie? So I'm a savory guy.
Okay.
So I'd go with pie. Because they're savory pies. Ooh. I do appreciate a good piece of cake, but I've always, like, if anybody ever asked me sweet or salty, I would have always gone for salty.
Okay. So what's a good savory pie you enjoy?
I'll always go for like a goat cheese tart or something, or like a tarte Alsacienne or something, like a Zwiebelkuchen, or like it's an onion tart or something. I love that kind of stuff, like cheese and onions and all that.
Now, you lived in the American Midwest for a while. Did you ever do like a pasty?
Yeah, of course.
How did that stack up?
Huh?
Among the savory pies, what do you think of the Midwestern American pasty?
I don't know if I had good ones. I mean, I am very happy with the cooking in this here great country. I mean, California has amazing restaurants. I went for our anniversary dinner. We went to a 3-star Michelin restaurant in Napa, and it's just like the level of just the inventiveness and everything is fantastic. But I'm also the guy who loves to have just currywurst and fries. I love döner, like Turkish fast food in Germany. All that stuff is really good. Some of that doesn't exist to that extent in the U.S.
Yeah.
When I first came here, I was like, where are the yakitori places? Where are the good ramen places? Where's Turkish food? Where's Middle Eastern food? Right? Like there wasn't a lot on the West Coast. That's changed.
Have you found?
I want to go though to the middle of. I've been to Texas and have barbecue, but not enough. I need to go to some of the other states there.
I'll take you to the American Southeast sometime.
Oh, man,
we'll talk you through some pretty.
I want to go to Wisconsin.
Beautiful culinary stuff.
The cheeses I've had that we get in California from Wisconsin. We used to have these commercials on TV in California. California, it's the cheese, and they'd always make fun of Wisconsin. Wisconsin cheese is 100 times better.
Oh,
or was at least. We got some good stuff in Napa now, like Red Hawk and good cheeses.
Wisconsin, shout out to cheese, good beer, good smoked beet. Good smoked meat.
I have not had a smoked meat.
Shout out to Gary, our Pockets Full of Soup fan, who also once tried carbonating soup for our show. He has a carbonator. That did not work out so well.
That sounds kind of strange.
It was, yeah.
But yeah, no, I just gotta. When my kid's out of the house, my wife and I are just gonna do an eating tour and we gotta go to the Midwest, and
Yeah, just go get fat.
And then we'll run back from there to California.
Thanks for giving up so much time for this. I
love cooking.
Look at me. I've been on the bad end of the loving food run. I've been eating too much love lately. So
but you expand and contract. I've seen you skinny, and I've seen you much bigger.
Yeah,
too.
I'm
when we
headed
first
back
met,
the right direction.
Yeah,
but still, it's hard.
Good.
Stress makes me bloat. Stress helps me make bad choices.
Stress makes me drink a lot of beer.
Okay.
Yeah, and snack a lot.
Man,
but
stress sucks. You gotta avoid that. Thank you for this.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for welcoming me into your home and for sharing so much of your story with these folks. I appreciate it.
This was my favorite pocket full of tangents. Look,
it's always a pocket full of tangents.
I mean, I'm on IGN podcasts, and we try to stay on topic. Obviously, Beyond fails miserably at being on topic. And that's why we love it. But NVC, we stay focused, and it's awesome to just kind of be able to ramble and go on tangents.
Yeah.
My loves in life, my family, food, movies, video games, and all that. I could talk for hours, and I know I can always talk for hours with you.
But it's still fun to do.
You're just a fountain of knowledge.
Oh,
I'm always amazed.
You're always too nice to me.
You know so much.
You're really nice to me.
You guys know how much this guy knows. I mean, it's
very little.
Randomly in the office, he'd pop up and he knows something about the most obscure topic, not video game related, just super obscure.
I just like lots of different
history.
Stuff. But then I have huge holes. To this day, I know nothing about Pokemon. Nothing.
There's still time.
Important things. That's true. There's a lot of life left to live.
Yep.
Hopefully. Hey, thank you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Perry, anything you want to plug before you go?
Check out my website. It's ign.com. And no, honestly, what I want to plug is be good. Be good to people. I get very frustrated. People, people on the internet can be mean. Mm-hmm. You know that. And I think there are lots and lots of good people. And I see this all the time. If we review a game on IGN that maybe the audience likes a little better than we do, the entire feedback is negative. Mm-hmm. You get this kind of you betrayed the expectations of an audience. There's no thanks for giving an alternate viewpoint, right? It's pure anger, and it's an anger that is then remembered for a long time, and they bring it back. I see this with Ryan McCaffrey. Didn't like the Alien game. You remember that?
I remember that very well.
To this day, he can't publish a piece without somebody saying, "Give Alien Isolation a really low review," right? And it's that's not his body of work. And so, if you frequent websites and YouTube channels and Twitch streams, and you like something, say so. You do not understand how important it is to laud people for a job well done. And usually we have this reaction where we want to say, that was awesome, and step away. You can't do that. Just like when you're angry. So important to give feedback when you're angry or when you disagree. Very important to give that feedback. But remember to do it when you like something.
Ladies and gentlemen, those are kind words. You've shown me tremendous affection. Show it everywhere and to everyone and every opportunity you get. Thank you for that. And thank you for watching. I will see you next time.